A special thanks to my Patreon supporters. What is the most unexplainable thing that ever happened to you? I've posted this before. 2 days after one of my closest, dearest friends died, we were semi-expecting it after he was in a terrible accident. I fell asleep in the library at school. This was after a horrific couple of days trying to process everything and function normally. I was massively sleep deprived. I placed my head in my arms on the library desk and I woke up and there he was beside me. It was a scenario that had happened so many times, us revising and hanging out in the library together, whispered jokes and banter, that it didn't feel strange at all. We stood up and wandered around, watched one librarian putting books away on shelves. There was a girl reading a book sat on the floor with sickly bright yellow socks. My friend made some silly dad joke about them being too loud for the library. We chatted in low voices, about nothing much, the usual chit-chat, and then went back to the desks. I woke up and he was gone. Of course, I was startled but weirdly euphoric. I went over the same set of shelves and had déjà vu. Saw the same librarian putting away the books and the same girl with the yellow socks still there sat on the floor reading. I swear to this day I hadn't seen them before I went to sleep. I like to think it was his way of saying goodbye. It helped me immensely, even though I know it was probably just a dream. But the socks thing has always stuck with me, and anytime I see a pair of loud, yellow socks, not very often, I think of him and our final chat. A really strong feeling kept me out of a high-rise building during an earthquake. I was staying late at work with some colleagues. Our office was located around the 40-50th floor of the building. I suddenly had a really strong thought that wow, if an earthquake were to hit now, the dash downstairs would be chaotic. I tried to brush it off but couldn't, the feeling was so strong. And it's not like I'm not used to working in high-rise buildings. I've been working at the place for around 2 years at that point and had never felt that way before or since. I decided to leave and work from home, which was only 15 minutes away on foot. Just as I arrived at home, an earthquake struck. It was pretty intense, and thankfully everyone at the office was alright, just freaked out, but it was so strange that something just told me to leave just minutes before it happened. I have this weird dream about a very specific house. I am never able to describe that house apart from the fact that I know it's an old mansion with small rooms. But I recognize it with very familiar feeling every time I dream about it. In reality, when I was very young, like less than 4 to 5, I was afraid of going to the bathroom alone because I thought there was an old man in it with a baker's hat. I still remember his face. One night, I was forced by my mother to go alone and be brave, and I swear, there he was just standing there. I froze in fear and then I remember running back, until I ran into my mother who was just standing there with a weird look on her face. All she said was, "See, I told you it's nothing to be afraid of," in a shaky voice, and she pulled me away from there. I think she saw him, but couldn't process it herself. When I was around 15, my parents left me home alone for the weekend, Friday night to Sunday later afternoon, and I was thinking, this is awesome. I can chill, play games all weekend and eat what I want. Went to sleep Friday night, and then woke up to my mum waking me up to what I thought was the next morning. So I asked, "What happened?" "I thought you were going out the whole weekend," to which she replied, "What are you talking about? It's 4 p.m. Sunday." I have no idea what happened to those 2 days. I didn't leave the house. There was no food or washing up that had changed since they left. I hadn't looked at my phone, there were unread messages from Saturday morning. But I refused to believe I was asleep the whole time. I had a living room in my parents' 2-story house that connected to stairs leading to the second floor of the house. You could see completely down the hall on the second floor from the couch in the living room. One time my family went away on vacation, so I had my cousin come over while I house sat for them. I'd been alone in this house for a couple of days now and I just really wanted company. We're sitting on this couch playing Xbox, or something. The stairs leading to the second floor are almost out of my vision. At the very top of the stairs on the left is a doorway leading to a bathroom and nothing else. We were up pretty late gaming when out of the corner of my eye I saw a gray face lean out and stare at me for a split second. I didn't budge, I just barely noticed it, but as soon as I did, it was gone. I hadn't snapped to look at it, nor did I say anything. I just continued gaming for about 3 seconds until my cousin said, "Did you just see that?" As soon as our eyes connected, we both knew we saw the same thing. The second my cousin said that, I felt my heart sink. It scared the shit out of me to have him pretty much confirm what I saw, but brushed off. I had immediately assumed it was just one of those blurs, or darting shadows you get in the corner of your eyes at times. The creepiest part is that it slid out as if it were lying on the floor. Whatever it was, its head was at level with the top of the steps right at the bottom of the bathroom door frame. It just sorta slid out, stared, then slid back. Again, I just saw it from the corner of my eyes, but it appeared to be gray-skinned with black hair from our combined description. We went upstairs and checked the whole bathroom, including the insides of luggage bags and the closet. We never found anything. I was walking to my friend's house one summer, maybe 10 or 11 years old. Anyways, sunny day, couple clouds but otherwise it's bright out, perfect visibility, when a perfectly rectangular shadow comes up from the direction behind me on the ground, maybe 15 feet by 30 feet in size, traveling just faster than a car probably would be and goes over top of me. I'm looking at the shape on the ground as it goes over, and when I do look up to the sky I don't see anything that could have possibly cast it. Even the clouds were just trailing little wisps. I looked back down and it was going over some houses, and then it was gone forever. So yeah, weirdest thing was a mystery rectangle shadow. Not me but my parents. In the place they used to live in, there was this old couch. My mom sometimes would walk by in the middle of the night and see a silhouette sitting there. She describes it as a man, sitting down, with a hat on, just sitting there. She saw it several times but thought nothing of it. Damn, she's brave, LMAO. She never told my dad, who one day said to her, "It's weird, but sometimes in the middle of the night I think I see a man sitting down on the couch doing nothing." So yeah, they both saw the same man sitting on this couch, and they told each other after they'd both seen it. Weird. 2 days ago, I'm working as a night receptionist in a hotel. A guy came in asking for a room, neat guy, my height and size, wearing a 3-piece suit, well-shaved and freshly cut hair. The dude seems pretty pissed but nothing out of the ordinary. It's 4 a.m. on a Saturday. Something in me just flipped. Every single cell of my body was screaming to me that this guy was absolutely dangerous and I was terrified. I'm 1.75 m and 150 kg, I'm often the kind that would make you uncomfortable with my big beard. My hands were shaking, there was a voice in my head telling me, "Don't let that man come near you or stay in the hotel at all, make him leave now." Emergency mode activated. I bullshitted my way around telling me we had no spare room for the night, due to an event happening near. The guy was pissed. He told me his wife threw him out, that he didn't have anywhere to go, and that he was dead drunk. Brain just said, if you let him in, he will either kill himself in the room or put everything on fire. I managed to discourage him from insisting on staying, but wouldn't take my advice to call the police to help him this night, and I didn't insist. I feel a bit bad that he left in his state, but this was the first time I felt sheer terror at the sight of someone. It was totally unexplainable. Was hanging out with my friend while we were roommates, and something came up about ships in bottles. He insisted that I talked about ships in bottles frequently for several months before that point, but I honestly don't recall talking or even thinking about them really ever. His girlfriend even backed him up. I call it ship in a bottle syndrome. 15 years old, I was taking a shower at home. The rest of my family was out and it was around 9:30 at night, I believe. Anyway, I hear someone knock on the bathroom door while I'm showering, so I call out, "I'll be out in a sec," thinking it's just my dad or one of my brothers getting home. There was silence for a few moments, and then knocking again, only this time it was pounding, like someone was banging on it with their fists, trying to break it down bare-handed. It was a little creepy, but my dad always loved to prank us, so I didn't think too much of it. I decided to get a towel around me and see what the hell his problem was anyway, but when I opened the door, no one was there. The house was locked up, no open windows. No cars in the driveway. I checked every floor, every room. No one else was home. That was the first occurrence. The weird happenings continued in smaller ways until we moved out of that house, to the point that we imagined it to be some sort of poltergeist and named the Medgar. I didn't personally witness this, but at the time my family was sufficiently freaked out by it and it was talked about a lot. One morning, my autistic brother went into my parents' room at like 3 a.m. He woke them up to tell them that his grandmother was very old and was going to die. They got a call later that day that she indeed died in her sleep that night. But he's autistic and significantly disabled, so it's not like we could just ask him how he knew that or why he said it. He did a lot of other weird psychic shit over the years, but that was the spookiest one. At a lunch table in high school, I exasperatedly put my head down and had a thought in the form of a question. My best friend a few seats down, responded to my question, and everyone looked at her. I asked if I said it out loud, and everyone agreed I had said nothing. It was weird. We've been friends since 7th grade, I was MOH at her wedding, and was in the room with her, and her husband when she gave birth to her daughter. We still make jokes about that time, she read my mind in high school LOL. It was 4 in the morning, I was lying on the bed and watching a video on YouTube. Suddenly, I felt like someone jump upon the edge of the bed. At first I thought it was one of the cats, but turning my head on the chairs on which they usually slept, I made sure that both of my cats are there. The worst thing was that they were looking exactly at the edge of the bed. Turning around, I saw an imprint there as if someone was sitting there or something small was lying. As soon as I looked at it, it disappeared. Was home alone with my sister who was about 3 at the time. She's sleeping in my room and I walk out to go to the bathroom. No one else is in the house, but as I'm in there handling business I start hearing the chairs moving in the kitchen. I come out of the restroom and look to my left where I find the dining table chair moved and placed perfectly staring down the hallway. Go back to check on my sister and she's still sleeping. Walk around the house to see if my parents were home and nothing. Doors and windows were shut, no way wind could have pushed this chair 5 feet and turned it to face down the hall. During this time I was constantly being woken up at 3 a.m. almost every night and felt a cold hand placed on my left pec over my heart. Spooky shit. I started having a panic attack one night out of nowhere. I kept repeating, "Something's wrong." I do have anxiety but had only had one other panic attack before this day. My husband sat on the bed with me and we tried to figure out what had triggered this. The only thing we could think of is that a family member of mine was going on a trip the next day and maybe that was making me nervous. So I made up a weird excuse to drop off coffee before they left super early the next morning. When I saw them, I felt fine. I immediately knew it wasn't connected, wished them well, and drove home. About an hour later, I get a call that a person in my family on the other side of the country died by suicide the night before. My husband worked for a small old folks' home. They only had 3 residents and his aunt ran the place. I had college classes nearby and would often come hang out for a few hours at the end of his shift and visit with the residents. One night my husband got the residents to bed and went downstairs to collect his paycheck while I turned off lights. As I reached the top of the stairs, I turned to look into the hallway leading to the residents' rooms. Standing outside the room of one of the residents was a woman. She was wearing an old pale green Victorian-style dress, and had her ear pressed to the door. I opened my mouth to say something, and she looked directly at me, put a finger to her lips and shushed me. I turned and practically fell down the stairs. When I got to the owner's office, she took in the expression on my face and said, "You saw the woman in green?" Not a question. I confirmed and she asked whose room she was interested in. When I told her, she nodded and sighed. The next morning, the owner called us to let us know that the target resident was found comatose in her bed. She passed away later that day. I was watching my parents' house while they were out of town. No dogs, nobody in the house except me. One night was just cleaning up the kitchen after dinner, and I should note that the house is quite large and rather creepy when you've got it all to yourself. Their bedroom is directly above the kitchen and I very distinctly heard footsteps start from the walk-in closet, go through the bathroom, into their bedroom and out into the hall. The squeaky board just outside their door made the squeak just as if somebody stepped on it. And that was it, pure silence. I grabbed the biggest knife out of the kitchen drawer and went to investigate. Nope. I was still totally alone. There is no way for anybody to access that part of the house without going past the kitchen and up the stairs first. I didn't sleep well at all that night and even get chills typing this. I was at home with my mom, nobody else. There were only two entrances, one at the front, where I was sitting nearby, and one at the back of the house, and it directly went to the kitchen where my mom was. And then I heard clearly my dad's voice calling, sounded like from the living room. He was working at the time, but I came to the living room anyway and found my mom there. She asked me, "Did you hear that too?" Nobody was there. When he came home, we asked him, but of course he said it was not him. At first I thought he lied, my dad really loved to prank us. But then there was no way he sneaked silently without me and my mom not knowing it. So I was once at McDonald's with my best friend who was a girl from Holland. Both her parents were Dutch and she was born there but moved to America quite young. We had just sat down to start eating when the father asked, "Does anyone know where the straws are?" Knowing where the straws were, and knowing they were freely paying for my meal, I quickly shot up and grabbed a straw for the father. "Here you are," I added. I then realized that they were sat staring at me like I was an alien. Now I only know how to speak English and bad English, but apparently, the father had made this request, completely in Dutch. But I would swear on a painful death, that I 100% clearly heard the request made in English. Not only that, the translation is completely different, so it was not as if I picked up the body language and my mind did the rest of the translating. Which only further confused them, and me to this day.